Joined right now by the head coach and general manager of the Nanaimo Clippers. It is Mike Vandekamp. Mike, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
So the 2016-17 season is on tap for your club here in the BC Hockey League. When it came to recruiting for this upcoming season, what holes in your roster were you looking to fill?
Well, I think the look of our team will be different this year. You know, we lost some pretty key players from last year's club. We've got eight players returning to our lineup from last year. And a lot of those guys were, playing maybe not as important roles, just the way that our team was built last year, where we had, three of the top five scorers in the league all on one line, and then a couple of other top scorers in our top couple lines. So, we lost some guys that ate up a lot of minutes last year, but we're excited about, the prospects of our returning guys filling some of those spots, as well as some of the new faces that we've added being able to step in. But I don't think we'll be as much of a line 1, 2, 3, 4 type of team like we were last year. Maybe look a little bit more like we did 2 years ago, where I think there's a little bit more of a sort of play by committee sort of team.
Explain your recruiting philosophy when it comes to that. What all goes into piecing the Nanaimo Clippers together for you?
Well, we have a template that we like our lineup to look like. Certain type of player here, a right shot center there, left shot center there, same sort of thing on the back end with lefties and righties, and different types of tools that each player brings to the table. But at this level, it's not always easy to just absolutely match that template exactly, just because it is such an open recruiting world that we live in. And you can like a player all you want, it doesn't mean that he's going to come and play for your hockey team. So I think overall you kind of have a certain set of standards that you're going to live by, and that you want to have a certain type of character player, a certain type of work ethic. I think the template of a team has changed a lot in the 20 years that I've been doing this, mostly in this league. I think your team has to be faster and more skilled today than ever before. And so I think, we're looking for a certain amount of speed and skill and work ethic that kind of fit the template of style of play that we want to be as a team. But, overall, I think you also have to, put all your players on the ice and then mold the style of team that you're going to be around the players more than the other way around.
You alluded to the fact that you've got a lot of experience in this league. Kind of leads right into my next question. Do you find that as a veteran coach, you're always learning going into every single season? And do you find that there's anything that you need to change in your style or in your philosophy?
Absolutely. I mean, the evolution that a person goes through when you have been doing this will be my 22nd season now, at training camp at the junior hockey level. I couldn't imagine running the team or having the same template and same approach today as we did 22 years ago. It's not even close. I think the whole approach is different. The recruiting process has changed. The size of camp. We used to have 60 guys come to main camp, and they'd all battle it out, and you'd keep the best 20 and move forward with a team. And I think the whole process has changed now, where more players are signing in advance of training camp onto the roster. And it doesn't mean that they don't still have to earn that spot and keep the spot, but there's definitely a much stronger commitment being made to the player prior to camp even opening. I think the recruiting world is a lot more competitive than it ever has been before. When you're talking to a young player that, a good young player, he's going to have, 10, 20 choices, not just in this league, but, other leagues that are competitive across Canada and in the United States. Obviously, we've had the U.S. influence in our league continuing to grow, a certain number of players coming from south of the border. So, all those things have changed. I think the style of team that you have has changed. And I've worked hard to evolve and try to make sure that I'm staying current and with the times. And, you always have a certain, I suppose, reputation that you might have of how you run your team and who you are. But at the same time, if you weren't evolving, you wouldn't be able to stay in the business.
So your club is one that won the division last year, fourth overall in the BC Hockey League in terms of points. What are your expectations for the club this season?
Ryan, we dive in every year and try to win everything. That's really the only way to do it. I think there's such a turnover now at our level in this league. I'm not sure you can build a team and bring back, let's say 18 guys from the year before and try to turn it over. And it just seems like, even if you have young players, they're going up the ladder fast. We have a lot of guys that only stay here for a year or two at the most now, and it seems to be kind of the norm. So we're getting used to only returning something around 7, 8, 9, 10 players at the most kind of thing every year. And we're happy with where the foundation of our team is and sort of that, I suppose, the culture being in place and us being able to turn it over from one year to the next and add new players in and be able to remain competitive. And that's what we're trying to do again this year. Our goal is to try to be as close to the top as we can be in the regular season, be as prepared as we can for the playoffs, hopefully make those playoffs, and then be able to take it as far as we can. And so, we're not, making a public announcement that we're going to win the championship, and yet at the same time, we're certainly not in any kind of rebuilding sort of mode either. We're going to dive in and just do the best that we can here this year.
You talked about those high-end guys that you're losing. You talk about Rempel and Brosseau and Gavin Gould and Caldas and those kind of guys. When it comes to filling those holes, would you say that's the biggest challenge facing the Nanaimo Clippers this season?
I think it's going to, yes, I do, but I think it's going to require more of a change in just the philosophy of how our team's going to be iced every night. I mean, last year that was the type of team we had. Some of the top players on our team, if you look at the forward group like Hoover and Brosseau and Rempel, those guys earned that ice time and opportunity that they got. I mean, our best players were our hardest working, most committed players every night, and you need to have that on your team. And then you can justify giving those guys the ice time that, they deserve. And I think this year's team won't have that exact same look. Like, you don't bring in a player, one specific player, and expect him to just replace Sheldon Rempel. Sheldon scored 59, 60 goals in our league last year. And in the 21 years that I've been doing this, I think that's the most goals that an individual player's ever had on a team that I've coached. But I've also had teams go to the league finals and have lots of success, and their top scorer only had 23, 24 goals. So I think it's about, adjusting the way that we're going to play and the way that our bench is going to be run. And, it's one of those years where we are not going to specifically replace one or two individual players, but probably just look at it more of how we operate the whole team.
So who are some of the guys that you're looking to step up this season and maybe not fill the shoes of those guys that you mentioned that, had the top scorers on your team, but that you're looking at to grab a higher role and have a bigger impact on the club?
I think the first guy that comes to mind is Spencer Hewson. He's been the longest-standing member of our team. He's going into his fourth season. He's been a real workhorse and a guy that's played a lot of whatever role we've thrown at him. He's grabbed it and run with it, and he's really evolved as a player. And I think he's a guy that, as our most veteran player and the captain of our team, that I think his offensive role will increase a bit this year. He'll be playing more quality minutes in those types of areas of the game, and I expect him to really have a good season for us. We have a couple of younger returning players, such as Lucas Finner, Matt Kowalski, to name a couple guys that I think could step up as younger players and have shown the ability to score as younger guys and, would be able to step up this year, I think, offensively. We've added some really exciting new players this year, such as Jake Harris and Vincent Millette, Jamie Collins, Ben Solon, Mike Fahey, some good young players that are new to our league but have really been successful at the levels that they're coming from. So I think we'll have some players step up and surprise. Guys will be saying, hey, who is that guy? He's new to our league, but he's a really solid player. And on the back end, we've got a couple of veteran D that I think could really step up and have good seasons. Taylor Carl, Sean Buchanan, they're veteran guys at the junior level, that I think are ready to step up as 20-year-olds and log really important minutes for us, and some exciting young recruits on the back end as well. So, again, it's going to be a new look to our team, but it seems to be like that it is that every year. But there are some exciting players, and we're looking forward to seeing how quickly they can adapt to the BC Hockey League.
One last question for you, Mike. What does it mean to be a Nanaimo Clippers player?
We start with we use a phrase here. It's called something to be proud of, and we try to do something every day that we can be proud of as an individual and as a team. Sometimes that's just in the simplest form of just training hard in the gym and having the best possible practice we can have and being home on time at the end of the day. But other days, obviously, there's games to be played. I think we can be proud of what we do as citizens in our community. And I think overall that's really what we're focusing on, is trying to create excellent young men that are ready to move on into the world, whether it be in academics, athletics, or just the real world itself. So we're just trying to help young men evolve into good, solid citizens, people that work hard every day, who work hard for their teammates and for themselves, and again, have a lot of pride in what they do, and that's something to be proud of. Tagline is something that we're carrying on here this year, and we're going to try to do something to be proud of every day, keep getting better, working hard, and trying to take it as far as we can into the spring.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks very much for doing this. Mike Vandekamp, the head coach and general manager of the Nanaimo Clippers, on the cusp of the 2016-17 BCHL season. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Thank you very much, Brian.